Hey there, Winston.
Hey, I remember you.
Nice. I wanted to ask you something real quick before we start this episode.
Yeah.
Sometimes we do the in the car stuff.
Yes, it's either on the bikes or in the car.
Right.
Yeah.
So we're running the GoPro in the car, and I noticed that you've made quite a few modifications to your car. It's pretty drastic stuff.
Yeah, man, I spent a weekend doing this. I tell you what, the hardest part was moving the steering wheel from, the left side to the right side.
Yeah, I mean, we're still in mainland China, so I don't know why you did that.
Well, just to remind me of home,
Oh, yeah, because in South Africa you drive on that side.
Correct, yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, these racing seats are pretty expensive.
Yeah, it's kind of weird to put Recaros in a Chinese car.
Yeah.
What are you going to do?
Yeah, I also upgraded the engine, so we got a little bit of a turbo going on there.
Oh, nice. So now it's a 1.6 liter turbo. You did an engine swap. This is crazy, dude.
I know, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, well, I wish you had told me about it. I would have helped you out.
Yeah, don't worry, just a bit of two-beer job, on the weekend.
I gotcha. Jokes aside, what actually are we in?
We're in a little Mitsubishi Colt.
Now, the Mitsubishi Colt was one of those cars in America that was like very, very super cheap in the 90s. But this one's a little bit different, isn't it?
Yeah, this is the Rally Art version, and a little bit of a tip here, this is the only one in mainland China.
Right, and actually this is not even a registered Chinese car. This has got a Macau car.
Yeah.
So we have dual plates right now.
We could go and drive into Macau.
That's pretty awesome.
And we will, actually. In the future, I'm going to arrange it so we can drive into Macau.
I can't wait.
Yeah.
It's going to be freaking
Anyway,
awesome.
we'll keep the origins of this car a secret
and
a mystery for all of you people out there. Just so you know, we're in something a little special today.
Yeah.
A little different.
A little different, right?
Yeah.
Mix it up.
It's kind of cool.
So the topic of today is kind of Chinese Americans and their identity here in mainland China.
Yes, I mean, and I'm not going to limit it to that. I know Chinese Australians.
Sure. Chinese abroad.
Yeah, they call them Huaqiao, right? Or overseas Chinese. So basically, any Chinese person who's either been born or grown up overseas,
right?
And when they come here, kind of the experiences that they have or that they can expect to have.
Sure. First off, I'm going to define how Chinese people perceive them, right?
Right.
Now, it's kind of a mixed bag because, number one, I'll say that they have a great amount of respect for Huaqiao because they kind of see that a Chinese person born or raised in the West has a special kind of advantage in life, right?
Right.
They can go anywhere they want. They're not limited to, working low-paid jobs here in China.
Correct.
They had, a clean upbringing with, healthy food and, safety standards and good education system, and all those things kind of go into their, benefit as a package, Yeah. However, they are still seen as Chinese people by Chinese people here, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not talking just about racially. I'm saying as a Chinese person looking at a Chinese person born abroad, even if they don't speak the language like Chinese, if they've never even been to China before, they never ate Chinese food before, they have nothing to do with being Chinese, they're still to them 100% Chinese.
Yeah.
They're just born somewhere else.
Correct.
Right? So that's an identity that we have to get out of the way first of how they're perceived.
Yeah, agreed. Let's talk about some of the experiences we've had meeting overseas Chinese people who have come here to try and work here or try to make a life for themselves.
Right.
Do you want to start or should I start?
Sure, yeah. I've noticed a lot of the times that I've ran, because we've met a lot of people from Australia, from America, right?
Yeah.
But their parents or their grandparents or their great-great-grandparents were Chinese.
Yeah.
And they, I'd say a good 30-40% of them usually want to come see where they came from, like their ancestors and that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
So maybe they want to do like a stint after college and come teach English here, right?
Right.
Now, because they identify as a foreigner, they have the same idea. Oh, I'll go to China and teach English, just like a Westerner might do, right?
Just like someone like you and me.
Right, because, again, there's no difference between us. They grew up speaking English and eating hamburgers and stuff, right?
Sure.
So the funny thing is actually when they come over here, a lot of the times they kind of get the bottom of the barrel jobs. And that is because if you guys watch our video, White Monkey Jobs in China, you'll know that, a lot of the times when people get teaching jobs here in China, they're looking for white people.
That's right.
The parents, even if that person's a native English speaker, even if they're qualified with an education background, would hire me over a Chinese-looking person just simply for the fact that they look Chinese. They're not getting that whole package, right?
Yeah,
they want that white face. They think it's more pure.
Correct.
For lack of better terms.
Yeah.
But what about you?
Well, I'll tell the first experience that I had, which showed me exactly what the score is over here, is back when I was teaching kindergarten, and that's like years and years and years ago.
When you first got here, right?
Yeah. And I kind of rose up in the ranks there and became the head teacher in charge of all the foreign teachers type thing,
Nice.
Which I think you've had the same
of
sort of
course.
experience in. So part of my job was to help interview new teachers.
Right.
And I mean, I did that when it seems to be a recurring theme.
Yeah.
Anyway, I got this call from this guy from Australia, and spoke to him on the phone. He's like, he's really interested in coming to teach English at the kindergarten and all that. And he'd been given the number and stuff.
Right.
So I'm like, cool, let's meet up for a coffee and chat and see, if you're up for the job type thing.
Right.
So I went to go meet him, and he was a Chinese Australian.
Okay.
If he's watching this, he'll remember.
Okay.
We sat down and we had a coffee and a chat, and I thought he was fantastic. He was the right kind of person. He had the right kind of energy and the right kind of qualifications, everything. But he was Chinese, and I knew this would be a problem, but I tried my best. I went back to the kindergarten, and part of the whole hiring process here in China is you need to attach a photo to your resume, right?
Yeah, that's something that shocks people, dude.
Yeah, they don't understand that that's something you have to do.
Yeah.
But he didn't have a photo resume, but I took a photo of him in the coffee shop with my phone, while I was there with him
to show
together, because I said they're going to want to see what you look like.
Right.
He agreed, obviously. And got back to the kindergarten, sat down in the headmistress's office, with the head teachers and stuff there, and I'm like, this guy's fantastic, I think he's really going to do well here. And I showed a picture, and they're like, nope. And I was like, come on. And they're like, look. And they were just very honest with me, though. They said, he looks Chinese, the parents aren't going to like him.
Right.
Because he looks Chinese, they're not going to believe that he can be a good English teacher.
Right.
Even though his English was impeccable because he grew up speaking English. It's a native language, yeah. They're like, nope, sorry. And then, they'd rather hire, during my course there, they hired like Russians, they hired Italians, all sorts of people who had terrible accents, right?
Right.
Absolutely awful accents. They couldn't speak English properly,
right?
And yet they'd hire them over a native speaker.
That's actually a good point. I have seen white Russian people that barely have any English, or Ukrainians actually, under their belt to get preferable positions and salaries over Chinese Americans.
Yeah, and they're like, you sit there and eat this. No, don't do this. And then they're like, yeah, great English. Yeah. So it's incredibly unfair.
Right.
It's just incredibly
absolutely
unfair.
for sure. But our commentary is not necessarily on the morality or fairness of working in China.
Look at that truck.
Oh man, it tipped over.
Oh, its suspension collapsed. Sorry, we didn't get any footage of that.
That happens.
Anyway. Anyway, let's get back to it. What can Chinese Americans experience coming in? Number one, that kind of discrimination.
Right.
So that is valid.
That's in the workplace, right?
Yeah.
For sure.
Finding a job, it'll be easy if you've got contacts in, places like factories or businesses. But like if you wanted to try and do an English teaching job, it's going to be incredibly difficult for you. They would. They're very discriminatory here.
Yes.
And they would hire a black person over a Chinese person, and they would hire a white person over a black person.
Right.
And that's just how it works here.
For sure. Anyway, if you guys want more information about that, go check out our jobs, What Can Foreigners Do in China?
Yeah.
I thought that was actually a pretty good one. Went in depth about all that kind of stuff. But I think now we can talk about what Chinese born abroad, when they come here for travel, how do they find themselves identified, like self-identified, right? Yeah. What do they think about what they see around them, right?
Yeah, sure.
I met a guy, he was actually, his grandfather was from the city I was living in up north in Inner Mongolia. Right. But he was, he had never been to China before, so he came over for his first time. Yeah. And he actually found one of the first videos I had ever made, which is terrible, don't look it up. But he's like, holy crap, like another American's living in Baotou, Inner Mongolia. So he thought it was cool, and he actually sent me a message, and we met up at a pizza bar of all places.
Nice.
And he just chatted to me about, like, after a couple weeks of him visiting and kind of seeing, and he didn't speak Chinese or anything, but kind of like traveling around and seeing Beijing and all these places and Baotou where his family was from. He was shocked that he couldn't draw any similarities to the way that he was raised or any values that he had. Everything that he was brought up with, even his parents' values and the values he learned at school and everything, the way his outlook on life was completely different than China. And he was actually kind of depressed to see how different Chinese people were to him. Right. Because maybe growing up, America's a cultural melting pot, but it's not perfect. I mean, you could still get bullied or teased back then for being Asian or something, and call you the Asian kid, or you good at math or something like that, right?
Sure.
So when he comes here to China, maybe he was looking for something. And correct me if I'm wrong if you're watching this video, but maybe he was looking for, something that he could connect to that he was being portrayed as in America, right? He didn't find that.
I think he probably had an idea. A lot of people have this idea that there's something special like back there, like there's some kind of cultural significance that these ideas,
Right. Specifically, it was things like the way people acted, the pushing, the loudness, the lack of manners and politeness, and of course we know China's changing; it's getting better in terms of those things, especially in cities like this. But for him, it was a big bummer to not be able to find anything that he had. He could say that those are my roots. You know what I mean? Yes. So, do you know anyone that came over here for that specific reason?
Well, Gary, really.
Gary, yeah.
Gary came here to kind of find his roots.
Yeah.
He ended up basically going to the village where his parents were from.
Yeah.
His grandparents, sorry. Kaiping, and he could understand the street vendors and the dialect.
That was one of the most interesting things, is that he didn't speak his local dialect, but he could understand it from his grandparents and parents.
Yeah.
So he went back there and he could understand, but he couldn't reply.
Yeah.
I thought that was interesting.
But I mean, he was also shocked at the, sort of lack of development there. And no running water, no TVs, and the very sparse way people live.
Sure.
Yeah. And, I've been sort of hanging out with Gary a bit while he's here.
Yeah.
And I've been helping him out here and there, or, we've been meeting up and so on. And, yeah, I mean, he's really been quite shocked at, like, how different China is to what he was expecting.
Yeah.
And he had this idea that he was going to come here because, the story with Gary is, if you guys don't know, he's a subscriber of mine, and when I did my big American trip, he's one of the guys that let me stay in his place. He's got a beautiful place out in Oceanside in San Diego. Man, this racing suspension is unforgiving.
That's not great.
Anyway, so he's got this wonderful place, so I went to stay with him. And he was telling me about his plans of kind of, I don't know if it's like a kind of a retirement, semi-retirement thing. He wanted to come out here and teach golf, because he's a golfer. He's a golfer, and he's actually pretty high up in the golfing circles.
Yeah. Country clubs.
He's all into all that. So he thought he could come here and be kind of a golf trainer. Mm-hmm. And he wanted to come and spend at least 3 months at minimum, maybe longer. He kind of wanted to make a new life for himself over here for a while, kind of getting back to his roots. But he very quickly changed his mind because he realized straight away that China is not.
I don't identify with this.
It's just not like America. You can't just come here and chill out and do a job, and it doesn't work that way. And I think the thing that turned him off the most was the noise, the pollution. You heard him talk about how his health took a hit.
Right.
Just the general kind of craziness and I don't know, chaotic way that things work around here.
Yes.
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Gary. Comment section's down there. But from what we were talking about, that's what I gathered anyway.
I think the thing that I thought was most interesting to get out of Gary's experience was, yes, like when I talked to him, he's just an American bro. Like that's how it is. But here, he wasn't perceived as that, right? No. So his kind of like lack of experience speaking Chinese or knowledge of the Chinese language was really kind of probably jarring for him, because everyone expects him to speak well. But when we say ni hao, we say one word and they're like, wow, your Chinese is so good. For him, they're like, what the hell's wrong with your Chinese?
Yeah, exactly.
I thought that was pretty interesting.
Maybe tell the story about the restaurant.
Yeah, we were in a restaurant. It was a Cantonese restaurant, actually, and we were ordering food, and the waitress just kept going to him for the order, even though he didn't know how to say any of the dishes, right?
Yeah.
Because he didn't know very much.
We had already ordered.
We already ordered, right? And she kept talking to him.
Yeah.
And we're like, yo, over here, we're his guide.
Yeah.
It just doesn't make any sense to them,
Absolutely.
And I think that the fact that two white guys here sitting in the car have derived such pleasure and had such a good time living in China, but a person that has Chinese roots wasn't able to find that is very interesting.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to see, I did a video with Gary pretty much straight off the boat. He'd only been here for a very short time. So there's a link here. You can go see his initial impressions where he talks about, what he thought.
Right.
And, you were there with me that day.
It was a good video. It was really fun, actually.
You actually spot him in the background. If you look, you'll see him walking around there.
Yeah.
So, that's pretty cool. And I guess at the end of the day, if you grow up in a certain culture, if you grow up as an American, you are an American. And if you come here, you're not going to be all of a sudden like, oh yeah, I'm Chinese, so I'm just going to assimilate. I'm just going to be part of the culture.
It's actually so much more simple than that. It's like where you come from is probably, who you are, to be honest.
Totally.
But it's not to say you won't have a good time here. I just think that, to sum it up really, I don't want to sound too harsh, but like a white foreigner is going to have more leniency here in China. And people will probably be more hospitable and nice to them.
I look, honestly, I think that's why people like our videos, is because we talk straight. We don't sugarcoat nonsense. And it's just the truth. There is no one in the world can tell me that, being a Chinese face is going to be more of an advantage over here than being a white face. As far as being a foreigner is concerned, and getting the perks of people treating you better, more job opportunities and things like that. I
will throw one in though.
Right.
And this is a very real thing.
Yeah.
If you are looking for boys or girls, Chinese, abroad, foreign-born Chinese people, clean up here, big time. Yeah. Absolutely, because they got the green card, they got the passport,
and they've got the cultural.
ties. Even if they don't, it's
then
more
they'll
easy
be more
for them to be accepted in the family.
in the family. That's something that us whiteys come into a lot of trouble because. Man, like you get in a relationship and the women, they just don't want to. They don't want their friends to know they're dating a foreigner. They don't want their family to know because it's too much of a hassle. But if they're dating an overseas Chinese person,
even if they don't know anything about China, just the fact they look Chinese is okay.
Then that gives them
even Asian.
a pass. It gives them a pass. Yeah.
Right.
I actually got Sasha to talk a little bit about that in the video where we talked about how we met and stuff. So I'll put a link over here so you guys can hear more about that.
So, and actually I did a thing about how I met my wife. Yeah. You can check that out as well.
It looks very much like an ADV video.
It does. Well, they'll be very familiar and comfy when they watch it.
That's true. It's true. Yeah.
I guess that's about it.
I guess so. I mean, anything you want to tell our subscribers before we finish?
Well, I don't care where you're from. I feel like if you were born somewhere, and you'll probably have those cultural values under your belt, and use those to your advantage when you go explore the world like we do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Also, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Yeah. Explore that like button.
And whether or not you think that I'm a racist because I like to say Chinese people this, white people that, or whether or not you see that I'm just pointing out actual facts, because let's be honest, that's how people perceive each other over here. If you're a white person, you will get treated different to a black person, to a Chinese person. It's not racist. It's just the
reality.
way it is. It's reality. Whether or not you think that we're just people speaking the truth, or whether or not you think we're total whack jobs who are just riding around in a car here in China doing stupid shit.
On the wrong side of the road.
Absolutely love you all the same. Thank you for watching us, guys. And at least from my own personal, from me, I'd like to say that I appreciate every single one of you guys all the same. And I have no preferences at all as to what your race or gender or anything like that is. You're all awesome. So, guys, continue to stay awesome.
You left my spirit